Shocking truth, Ezekiel's prophecy of the dead sea fulfilled. Strange fish are here now. The news spread like wildfire across the sun-drenched shores of the Dead Sea. Fishermen and tourists gathered in disbelief as strange reports poured in. Glimmering under the hot sun, haunting whispers floated through the air, fish that shouldn't exist were surfacing. With every tale told, the excitement swelled. People were on edge, puzzled, scared. Could it really be? Ezekiel's ancient prophecy was coming to life. The air crackled with tension and curiosity, thick as the humidity that clung to their skin. Amidst the bustling crowd, a local fisherman named Adnan stood with eyes wide, like a deer caught in headlights. He had spent his whole life in these waters, and yet, he'd never seen anything like this. The fish were unlike anything he'd ever caught, their scales shimmered with an otherworldly light, colors swirling like a painter's palette lost in chaos. Was it a joke? A hoax? The uncertainty tightened his chest, leaving a lump in his throat. Word on the street was that ancient texts warned of a time when the sea would heal, when life would return. But it couldn't be true, could it? Eyewitnesses spoke of horrors: two floating heads of fish, with eyes bulging and mouths agape, as if crying out of terror. It sent chills down the spine of every onlooker. Children stared in awe, while adults whispered about divine retribution. Nobody could draw their eyes away, as if the impending doom was hanging over them like a dark cloud. Hey, before we continue with this amazing story, I need to give you an important heads up. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube unsubscribed them without warning. Take a quick second to check the red button below to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I'd hate for you to miss any of the exclusive content coming soon. And while you're there, smash that like button, it really helps me out with the algorithm. Oh, and tell me in the comments, which city are you watching from? I love getting to know every amazing person who's part of this community. Your participation makes all the difference. Let's connect. Back in the chaos of the shore, whispers grew ever darker. Some claimed they could hear the calls of the fish, strange, echoing sounds that seemed both a warning and an invitation. Their eyes gleamed with the promise of secrets yet uncovered, making the hairs on the back of Adnan's neck stand on end. He felt it, that restless energy in the air, a power so raw it made him tremble. The usually calm surface of the water rippled as if responding to the collective fears of the crowd. What did it all mean? Could the miracle of life returning to this desolate sea also bring about unimaginable danger? The beach was alive with tension and anticipation as the sun dipped low, painting the sky with hues of orange and purple. As night approached, shadows stretched long and dark, shrouding the truth in mystery. The phenomenon may have just begun, but it was clear, something had shifted. There was no going back. As Adnan gazed into the oily blackness of the sea, a flash of silver darted just beneath the surface, sending a wave of dread coursing through him. Was it a sign? A warning? The moon hung heavy above, its light shimmering ominously on the water, ready to reveal secrets or consume souls. What would emerge from the depths next? The atmosphere grew thick with a sense of impending doom as darkness enveloped the beach. Adnan's heart raced. He felt heavy, like the weight of the moon was pressing down on him. The murmurings of the crowd felt suffocating. People were no longer just curious, they were frightened. Eyes darted nervously, searching the shadows and the water for any sign of what might come next. Suddenly, a scream shattered the air. Look! A woman pointed frantically towards the shore, her voice trembling. Everyone turned as the water buckled and heaved. Then it happened. A monstrous form broke the surface. It was the fish, huge and grotesque, glistening under the moonlight. Its mouth gaped wide, filled with rows of jagged teeth, eyes that seemed alive with fear and fury. It thrashed wildly, sending waves crashing onto the shore, spraying the onlookers with salty, foamy mist. Adnan stumbled backward, the world around him blurring. He had heard the tales of sea monsters from the local elders, but this was beyond anything he'd imagined. His instincts screamed at him to run, but he felt rooted to the ground, paralyzed by disbelief and horror. The screams of the crowd erupted as more fish breached the water, each revealing a different nightmare. Some had strange patterns and colors that twisted and swirled like flames, while others glowed with an unnatural phosphorescence. The air grew heavy with a rancid stench, not just of fish but of something rotten, something that made stomachs churn. "Retreat!" a local authority figure shouted, waving his arms desperately. But it was too late. Panic swept through the beach like a wildfire, with people tumbling over each other as they fled, scrambling to escape the rising tide of terror. Adnan's feet finally regained their purpose. He turned to run but hesitated. The sea was alive, and instinct pulled him back. What if those creatures held the key to what was really happening? What if the prophecy was true? That thought gripped him, pulling him back to the water's edge. Suddenly, the surface rippled violently. Adnan instinctively took a step back. A massive shadow loomed beneath the surface. It was bigger than anything he'd ever seen, moving swiftly with a predatory grace. Then, with a gut-wrenching roar, a colossal creature leapt from the depths, a titan of scales that cast a shadow over the fleeing crowd. The sight struck fear into Adnan's heart. This was unlike anything Ezekiel's words could have prepared them for. It was a driving force of chaos and dread, a vivid embodiment of every dark prophecy he had ever heard. He could hardly breathe as he witnessed the wild flailing of the creature's tail, sending debris and waves crashing down like a violent storm. Beneath the surface, the water churned as the battle between hope and fear raged on. People cried, prayerful utterances mingled with screams of hopelessness. Would they escape the wrath of the sea? What lay brewing beneath those depths? The moonlight flickered, casting fleeting glimmers on the water as if warning of further horrors lurking below. Adnan's heart thundered in sync with the crashing waves and the chaos, as he fought to find clarity amidst the panic. As the chaos swelled, one question haunted him: if the sea was truly healing, then what else was awakening? The waves grew calm again for a moment, leaving a deafening silence. But in that quiet, in those last fleeting seconds of eerie tranquility, everyone could feel it, even the fish circling ominously below. Something was coming. Something worse than they ever could have imagined. What would emerge from the depths next? Would their lives be forever changed in the wake of this monstrous revelation? The silence shattered suddenly, like glass breaking in the still of night. A cacophony of chaos erupted again as the monstrous figure carved through the water, sending shockwaves rippling toward the terrified crowd. Adnan's heart raced, each beat a reminder of the danger thrumming closer. He forced himself to glance back at the sea, where shadows danced, twisting in grotesque patterns just below the surface. "Adnan!" A cry broke through the din. It was Fatima, her eyes wide as saucers. She pushed her way through the panicking crowd, desperation edging her voice. "We need to leave. Now." But something held Adnan in place. The stories he'd been told as a child, the curses of the sea, the prophecies of doom threaded through their coastal towns, everything he thought was myth was unfolding before his eyes. He searched her face, torn between the instinct to flee and the magnetic pull towards the water. What if we can learn something? What if this is a sign? Fatima shook her head, strands of hair whipping across her face. This isn't a sign. It's a disaster. Those are not just fish, they're monsters. She caught her breath, urging him to see the truth in her frantic gaze. But before he could respond, the depths erupted with a deafening roar, drowning out the cries from the beach. A new creature broke through, a behemoth, thicker than a bus, with rough scales glistening under the faint moonlight. Its eyes were vacant, soulless, a reflection of the void where hope once thrived. It twisted and turned, thrashing wildly as it sought to reclaim dominance over the waters, sending stormy whitecaps crashing against the shore. Adnan's pulse quickened. An all-consuming need for answers surged inside him. "Look at its patterns, Fatima. This isn't random. It's like they're trying to communicate." "Communicate?" She spat, her voice laced with disbelief. "With what? Death?" But Adnan wasn't listening. He pushed past her, drawn toward the lashing waves and the chaos bubbling beneath. He stumbled over debris, broken shells, splintered wood from nearby stalls, and caught a glimpse of something flickering among the fish. A shimmer that danced in the moonlight like a beacon of truth, or perhaps calamity. Adnan, no! Fatima's terrified scream echoed as a huge shadow lunged toward him. He barely dodged, the monster's slick body cutting through the water, just inches from where he stood. The tide cried out, swirling against his legs, threatening to drag him under. "Let us go," she urged, pulling him back from the edge. The crowd was growing distant, their frantic escape fueling the panic in his chest. "Please. I can't lose you." He hesitated, knowing the danger that lurked in those waters, yet feeling the pull of discovery. But then he saw it, a fish, glowing eerily with a strange light, momentarily breaking the surface of the water. It stared at him, and a sudden chill crawled down his spine. Was it fear? Or something more? "No. It's calling me." Adnan breathed with a feverish determination. He took a step forward, compelled by an unseen force. If he didn't uncover the truth now, would he ever get the chance? Before he could make another move, the ground trembled. A rumble echoed from deep within the ocean, the beast beneath boiling to a breaking point. Something massive was rising, forcing its way to the surface, and it was bigger, meaner, and more terrifying than anything they had seen thus far. Adnan and Fatima locked eyes, both feeling the weight of the moment crash around them. The tide of despair was rising, threatening to swallow everything in its path. "What if this is just the beginning?" Fatima whispered, panic filling her voice. Adnan's mind raced, piecing together fragments of prophecies, whispers of ancient curses. The truth hit him as hard as the waves. What if this was a reckoning? The long-awaited return of something terrible, something the world had dared to forget. With that realization spurring him on, his heart raced as the sea roared again. Something larger than life was coming, and this time, the darkness wouldn't be denied. Would the past finally reclaim its wrath, or would they find the strength to face what lurked beneath? The ground shook again, and a spray of salty mist enveloped Adnan and Fatima, the wild wind a breathless warning. In that moment, the darkness seemed to pulse and breathe, alive with the promise of chaos. They stood frozen, hearts pounding against their chests, caught between allure and fear. "Adnan!" Fatima shouted again, this time with desperation that twisted something deep within him. "We can't outrun this. It'll swallow us whole." But Adnan, eyes wide, didn't hear her. The shimmering figure from the depths flickered again, a beacon in the chaos. It was small, bright against the murky backdrop, garnering his full attention like a moth to a flame. Before he could act, a loud crack sliced through the air, like thunder announcing a storm. It shook the earth beneath them, a warning or a herald. Adnan turned to Fatima, searching her face for understanding. But her expression was pure terror. "We have to go back," she insisted, gripping his arm tightly. But then, a massive surge erupted from the ocean, the behemoth returning with a vengeance. Water cascaded around them in a furious wave, drenching the panicked crowds who screamed and stumbled backward. Adnan realized the monster was not only angry, it was desperate. It was fighting for survival against something unseen, something brewing in the dark abyss of the sea. That a deafening roar erupted once more, followed by a wave of chilling silence. Adnan's breath hitched. There, among the chaos, another figure emerged. It was a towering silhouette, forcing its way up with an unrivaled wrath that overshadowed everything before it. Its scales glimmered ominously, reflecting the pale moonlight like sharp blades. "Run!" Fatima cried, pulling on his arm, her fear infecting him. He felt the urgency of her voice, the primal instinct screaming that escape was their only option. But his mind was a tumultuous sea, wrestling with the urge to uncover the truth about this darkness. As the enormous creature broke through the surface, the piercing glare of its eyes met Adnan's, locking him in a spell of sheer terror. In that moment, clarity pierced through the haze. This isn't a curse, it's a warning, he shouted. He caught sight of movement behind the creature. Fatima's breath was shaky as she looked back in horror, but Adnan realized the strange glowing fish were gathering, swirling in a pattern, almost like they were orchestrating something far more significant than he could comprehend. "Look!" he yelled, pointing toward the display. Adnan's heart thundered as he felt the pull of the water beneath him again, closer now. What if these creatures had been waiting, watching for ages? What if they were not simply monsters but guardians of something even more profound? As the gargantuan beast roared again, its roar mingling with the whispers of those shimmering signals, uncertainty gripped him. What if this is happening for a reason? What if we can use this to find out what they want? Adnan, you're out of your mind. Fatima's voice rose above the chaos, shaking him from his thoughts. They're trying to drown you in their madness. But in that moment, the force of the ocean trembled again, and with it, another echo of prophecy brushed against his thoughts. Was it possible that everything he'd learned as a child had not been fables but insights into what lay ahead? As the depth of the sea trembled underfoot, a terrifying realization hit him. If this wasn't just a disaster, if this was a message from a world that had long been forgotten, then he could be its bearer. He could understand the truth, whatever it may be. "Fatima," he whispered, conviction igniting fire in his veins. "We can't run. We have to stand our ground or face the consequences." But before either of them could act, the ground shook violently. Waves crashed harder, dragging both of them toward the edge. The darkness beckoned, whispering secrets of the deep. "Adnan!" Fatima screamed as they began to lose their footing. The ocean surged violently, and beneath them, chaos roiled. Adnan felt his resolve falter as powerful currents pulled him in. If he chose to confront the unknown, would he uncover the power hidden beneath the surface, or would he fall victim to the very legends he craved to unravel? The tide was turning, and he couldn't tell which direction it would lead them. But he had to decide now before the darkness consumed them both. The ground trembled again, this time more viciously, ripping through the sand beneath Adnan's feet as if the earth were tearing itself apart. Water surged higher, faster, colder, slapping against their legs, pulling at Fatima while she struggled to keep her grip on him. Panic surged in her eyes, reflecting the chaos around them. "Adnan!" she yelled, fear jagged in her voice. "This is madness. We need to get away." But the call from the ocean was more compelling. Adnan's heart raced, thundering in his chest like the giant beast just off the shore. There was something in that glimmer, the radiant glow of those fish swirling together, patterns forming that sparked an unshakable sense of destiny. It was as if they were choreographing a dance to the symphony of chaos. "Fatima, wait!" he shouted, pulling away from her grasp, feeling the wicked tug of the sea beneath him. She hesitated, eyes growing wide in disbelief. "What are you doing? You can't just..." But Adnan was already stepping forward, his feet sinking into the soft sand as he fought against the violent pull of the tide. He felt a rush, a fire igniting deep within. Something was calling to him from the depths, a truth he needed to grasp. Beneath the chaos, the giant creature thrashed violently, roaring in pain and wrath, its scales shimmering brighter under the moonlight. It drew nearer, with every drop of water echoing tales of desperation. Had it truly been fighting for its life against something much darker, or was this all part of the reckoning? Suddenly, the fish whirled tighter, illuminating the atmosphere with an eerie glow. Adnan could see them clearly now, tiny lights like stars flickering under the tumultuous waves. The way they altered their formation seemed intentional, purposeful. The thought hung in the air, was this a warning or a guide? "Adnan, please!" Fatima screamed as she clawed for footing, the chaos of the sea fueling her despair. He could feel her fear, the raw intensity of it washing over him. "You need to come back." But the pressure around him grew heavier. A sense of clarity washed over him, ridding the fog of confusion. He remembered the stories, the ones spoken in hushed whispers of long-gone sailors and fallen kingdoms. They spoke of a time when humans and the guardians of the deep were one. What if this was his chance to rewrite that narrative? As he forged ahead, the monstrous silhouette loomed larger, its eyes a deep abyss fixing on him, searching, perhaps assessing. Adnan stood firm. "If you're meant to warn us, then do it," he shouted, voice laced with determination. The sea roared back, waves crashing like thunder. It felt alive, seething with angry memories. It wasn't just a force of nature that Adnan stood against. It was history, revenge, and perhaps something beyond understanding. The fish reacted, darting through the water in brilliant arcs, creating flashes of light that spiraled toward the creature. In that instant, in the eye of the storm, he realized that everything was connected: the fish, the beast, the darkness. They were bound by some ancient truth, a link that ignited hope, fear, and bewilderment. Adnan. Fatima's voice pierced his thoughts like arrows, giving way to uncertainty and concern. He turned to face her, teeth clenched. Her gaze was wide, desperation hanging in the air as tightly as the salt spray. But he needed to know. He had to press forward. Suddenly, the water beneath him exploded, and a massive wave surged toward the shore, racing like a collapsing mountain. Adnan staggered but kept his footing, determination burning in his gut. "I have to know. This might be our only chance." As he fought against the impending danger, time froze, and he could almost hear the whispers of the ocean weaving through the chaos. Was this a revelation, the moment the prophecy entered into existence? But with a final, deafening roar, the beast surged forward, and everything changed. As the tide swallowed the shoreline, the very air thickened, charged with an energy that screamed of impending truth and imminent danger. Could Adnan, in facing this unknown existence, unravel the fabric of his fate, or was he simply a pawn in a game far beyond his comprehension? The ocean beckoned still, promising secrets sealed in the dark. Adnan felt the air shift around him, a weightlessness that pulled him into the embrace of the stormy sea. The water surged, licking at his ankles, the tide now an insatiable force. He glanced back at Fatima, the fear raw on her face, but her silhouette was swallowed by the dancing water behind him. With each step, the waves crashed, furious yet melodic. The creature beneath him let out a spine-chilling groan, reverberating through the depths of the ocean, as if it could sense Adnan's unwavering determination. Every ounce of his being screamed for him to turn back, but the burning fire in his heart pushed him further into the chaos. Then, he locked eyes with the creature, a massive, serpentine entity with scales reflecting a shimmering array of colors, captivating yet terrifying. Its eyes, dark and endless, bore into his soul, peeling back layers of his apprehension, exposing vulnerabilities he never knew he had. The creature was neither a foe nor a friend, it was a keeper of secrets, a marker of destiny. With a desperate lurch, the water spiraled around his legs, and he heard the whispers once more, echoes of ancient voices mingling with the crashing waves. The guardians, the sacrifice, the blood of the fallen will awaken the truth. It was all too much, crashing like the waves that threatened to drown him in their wrath. Adnan. Fatima's cry was sharp, chopping through the fog of his thoughts. "Please, come back. We don't know what's out there." His heart fluttered. He wanted to go back. He wanted to pull her into the safety of solid ground. But as he stood firm, the gleaming fish swirled in formation, illuminating the vast sea with a radiant glow. They darted back and forth like glowing arrows, guiding him toward the truth but also toward danger. With every flicker, the water beneath began to pulse, alive in ways he never imagined. Adnan's hand shot out instinctively, fingers brushing the surface. A jolt of electricity surged through him. It was an unspoken bond, a connection that transcended the visible world. He was being drawn deeper, deeper still, into the hidden realms of the ocean's story. Suddenly, the shore began to tremble anew, the ground shaking violently beneath them as if responding to some catastrophic event unfolding beneath the surface. Whispers turned to screams, echoing warnings from the depths of the sea. "Adnan! Run!" Fatima's voice broke through, panic clawing at her tone. He felt the ground shift, and in that moment, when fear clouded her eyes, he understood. There would be no turning back once the truth unveiled itself. Eagerly, he whispered back, almost lost in the thrumming pulse of the ocean, "I have to know." But as he focused on the creature, an unimaginable sound crescendoed, a distant thunder that vibrated through the water and shook him to his core. The creature unleashed another roar, a sound mingling elements of sorrow and rage, one that echoed across the darkened horizon. It wasn't just an exhibit of power, it was a call. A call that rippled through the fabric of nature itself. Adnan could sense it, a primal energy tugging at him, a promise of revelation. The fish swirled tighter, their luminescent forms pulsating around him like a heartbeat. Time stood still, and he felt weightless, suspended in the eye of the gathering storm. Then, it happened, a blinding flash of energy exploded forth. The ocean heaved violently, and every fear, every memory, fell away as he plunged into a world illuminated by shimmering lights. What was waiting for him beneath the surface? Would he awaken what lay dormant, something that could reshape their understanding of existence? As he was pulled underwater, darkness enveloped him, leaving Fatima's fading cry behind. The infinite depths beckoned, overwhelming, and yet, tinged with the promise of truth. Would he come out alive, or would he be lost to the embrace of the ocean? The secrets were below, waiting to reveal themselves, but at what cost? Adnan's vision spiraled into a kaleidoscope of colors, the shimmering lights enveloping him like a comforting embrace. The weight of the water pressed against him, and every breath felt like a statement against the darkness that surrounded him. It was a fierce struggle to stay conscious, fighting against the pressure that tugged him deeper. Suddenly, he landed on a solid surface. His heart raced as he gasped for air. Glancing up, he realized he stood on the marble floor of an ancient chamber, its walls pulsating with the same light he'd seen underwater. The cries and chaos of the surface world faded away, replaced by an eerie silence, just as heavy shapes began to form around him. Ghostly figures materialized, their features blurred and shifting like smoke. They whispered to each other in an ancient tongue, their voices entwining with the lingering echoes of the ocean. Adnan strained to make sense of their words that seemed to carry histories millennia old. The closest ghost hovered nearer. With each flicker of light from its form, Adnan felt a knot tighten in his chest. This figure was unlike the others, more solid, its features sharper. A woman, draped in worn silks that breathed the essence of the sea, locked eyes with him. A shiver ran down his spine. "You are here," she spoke, her voice melodic yet filled with a warning. "The blood of the fallen has called you." Adnan stepped back, heart thumping wildly. "What do you want from me?" he stammered, confusion and fear gnawing at him. The fragments of the prophecy echoed in his mind, taunting him with implications he wasn't ready to face. She extended a translucent hand, beckoning him forward. "You will understand, but only if you see what has been lost, and what is yet to come." Suddenly, visions bled into reality. Adnan was not merely an observer, he was part of a story replaying its dire moments. He saw a village by the sea, thriving and vibrant. Children played as fishermen brought bountiful catches ashore, but then darkness surged, shadowing the sun, a tempest of scales, teeth, and wrath. Waves crashed like thunder, consuming lives, leaving behind chaos and despair. Gritting his teeth, Adnan felt the weight of their anguish, the pain and desperation of those inhabitants now faded into memory. "No," he gasped, "this can't be all there is." The apparition nodded gravely, her form flickering. "You have the power to change this. But the choice must be yours." Sweat dripped into his eyes as he recalled Fatima, her pleading gaze refusing to leave his mind. Would she have to bear witness to such devastation? He thought of the promise of truth, the stakes becoming painfully clear. The ghosts shifted, the air thick with anticipation as a sound erupted from the darkness, a growl, ferocious and primal, resonating through the chamber. Adnan felt the tremor of the ocean's fury coursing back through him, igniting instincts he didn't know he had. The dark serpent, its wrath not yet quelled, still writhed in the depths. It was not just a creature but a manifestation of their collective memories, their suffering. To face it would mean confronting the truth of his lineage, the sacrifices that lay entangled in the fabric of his existence. From behind the apparition, new figures emerged, a gathering of warriors whose armor glinted with water droplets, a council of lost souls readying for battle. Adnan's heart thudded in rhythm with their resolve. What choice would he make? With the echoes of the past reeling around him, the air hummed with possibility. Would he stand against the tide of history, or would he let it drown him? He took a step forward, grasping the weight of their expectations, when a sudden roar from the depths interrupted the moment, a sound much closer now. Was it the creature returning, hungry for vengeance? And just then, as shadows converged upon him, the woman whispered a final warning: the time of reckoning is upon you. Choose wisely, for the fate of many hangs in the balance. Adnan's breath caught in his throat. The battle was about to begin. A surge of determination filled him. He would embrace the challenge ahead, but would he have the strength to alter their fate before it was too late? The darkness closed in, the clash of worlds awaited him, and in that moment, the answer to his quest shimmered just out of reach, taunting him with its elusive promise. What choice would he make when the darkness unveiled its shocking truth? Adnan's heart thundered as the roar echoed around the chamber, a terrifying reminder that time was running out. He could almost feel the weight of the eyes of the warriors upon him as they waited, breath held, for his next move. Shadows twisted and churned, and a shudder ran through the air. With his pulse racing, he glanced towards the ghostly woman. "What do I need to do?" he shouted, trying to mask the tremor in his voice. The shifting figure remained calm, her eyes an ocean of deep sorrow and unyielding resolve. "You must confront the creature. It is a reflection of the pain this land has endured. Only by facing it can you unlock the truth." Adnan swallowed hard. Confrontation. The word seemed to hang in the air, an electric charge that made the hairs on his arms stand on end. The faint growl from the abyss escalated into a noise that rattled the very foundations of the chamber. Panic surged within him, every instinct screamed to flee. But there was Fatima, her smile, her laughter. He had to fight for her. Somehow, through the maelstrom of fear, her face steadied him. Closing his eyes for a moment, he drew a long, shaky breath, quieting the tempest inside. When he opened them, he felt different, armed with a purpose. The apparition moved closer, her presence a weak light in the growing darkness. "You carry their hopes, Adnan. Channel their strength. Fight for what has been forgotten." In a heartbeat, he shifted his weight as the sea of ghosts began to chant, their voices a haunting melody filled with the weight of sorrow and loss. He felt the energy pulse around him like waves crashing against a shore. The ground beneath him vibrated with ancient power, calling him deeper into the chamber, revealing a path shrouded in shadows. Adnan took the first shaky steps. Each footfall rang out sharp against the marble, a bold declaration of intent. The chanting echoed, lifting his spirit even as fear threatened to stall his momentum. Suddenly, a massive shadow surged from the depths, a monstrous form, sleek like a mirror yet grotesquely warped, its scales glistening with an unearthly light. Adnan's heart dropped as he locked eyes with the creature. It was ancient, primal, full of rage, its very presence held the whispers of broken dreams and haunting cries. He took a deep breath, forcing himself to remember the words of the warriors behind him, the faces of those lost to the tempest swirling in his mind. "Adnan." The voice rang out again, sharp and unwavering. It was the woman, her gaze anchoring him. "Do not let it consume your fear." With clarity flooding his veins, Adnan stepped forward. "I won't back down." His voice was fierce and unyielding, cutting through the air like a blade. The creature arched its back, the water swirling violently in tandem with its movements. It lunged forward, its maw opened wide, darkness spilling forth as the ghostly forms faded behind Adnan, leaving him alone to face this embodiment of wrath. "Fight!" he shouted, arms raised, summoning the strength he felt within. As if responding to his command, the glow from the warriors surged like sunlight breaking through storm clouds. Ghostly swords appeared in their hands, blurring around him like a wild dance of light. The energy enveloped him, he felt lifted, a whirlwind of spirit and courage tickling his skin. In that moment, everything unraveled and everything came together. He wasn't just fighting for himself, he was fighting for a history lost, for every soul taken by the sea's cruel wrath. He could sense the weight of their collective grief but also their hope boiling to the surface, yet just as the creature closed in, its jagged teeth ready to rip through him, a shocking revelation hit Adnan like a tidal wave. The creature wasn't just a beast, it abstractly mirrored parts of himself. In its darkness lay the truth of his lineage, the legacy he had yet to fully comprehend. Would he embrace it or be destroyed by it? The air crackled with energy as the battle loomed. Somewhere inside him, he knew he had to find that connection, the truth hidden within that darkness, the key to not just survival, but to redemption. As clashing powers collided around him, a final chilling scream of rage erupted from the creature. The ground shook violently, and Adnan felt the chamber shudder, the walls vibrating with ferocity. "Face the truth, Adnan," the spectral woman urged. What lay in that truth? And would it be enough to save them all, or would it seal his fate? The clash was about to reach its zenith. Adnan braced himself as the creature lunged. The tension coiled tightly in his chest. He could feel the energy of the ghostly warriors cascading around him, powerful but unsteady, like an ocean tide ready to crash against the rocks. "You are not just a beast," Adnan shouted, his voice trembling with conviction. "You are part of me." The massive creature halted mid-lunge, its scales shimmering as if rippling with unshed tears. It seemed to regard him, the glow of its eyes fading for a moment, leaving behind a depth of sorrow. A flicker of understanding ignited within him. This was more than a battle, it was a confrontation with the shadows of his own heart. As he stood staring into its abyssal eyes, flashes of his own life erupted in his mind, moments of loss, regret, and the remnants of his bloodline. Memories flooded in, each a thread woven into the enormity of what he faced. The loss of his family, the turmoil of his past. "Your anguish is my own," he exclaimed, raising his arms higher. "Let the truth bind us rather than destroy us." The creature paused, uncertainty crackling in the air. Adnan could feel the tension shift, as if time itself held its breath. Behind him, the ghostly warriors continued their haunting chant, their voices combining into an anthem of hope, a melody that defied despair. The creature recoiled, angry yet confused, as if Adnan's words cut through its rage like a sudden sunrise dispersing a storm. It coiled tightly, filled with hesitation. Adnan seized the moment, stepping forward with purpose, grounding himself. "I am not afraid. I will face the darkness." The air vibrated with power. Small sparks twinkled around him, growing more abundant as he steeled himself against the creature's menace. It opened its jaws wide again, but this time, what spilled forth was not a darkness, but a cacophony of whispered promises, lost dreams, unfulfilled hopes, echoes begging to be lifted from the depths. Suddenly, a horrendous roar erupted, shaking the chamber violently, rattling bones, a haunting noise born from ages past. The shadows around him seemed to swirl faster, but instead of fear, Adnan felt an odd sense of clarity. Within the heart of chaos lay clarity. "This is my inheritance," he shouted. The creature stilled, enthralled by the intensity of his declaration. At that moment, Adnan focused on the heartbeat of the chamber, feeling the pulse of his ancestors echo around him. "Together," he roared, channeling the collective spirit. A blinding light surged from him, a brilliant white aura igniting the shadows. The creature writhed, drawn to the light like a moth. Tendrils of darkness stretched out from its body, but at the same time, the light expanded, finding a way to intertwine with the creature's form. Slowly, the features of the beast began to shift. The anger in its eyes faded, replaced by a deep sadness. Its jagged teeth softened, and it shrank back as if retreating from the light. "Face your truth," Adnan urged, reaching out. "Reveal who you truly are." The walls trembled again, this time with anticipation. The spectral woman's voice flooded his mind. "You are the key, Adnan. The truth lies within the shadows cast by your own heart." The creature paused, and in that pulse of light, a reality buried deep within it began to reveal itself, images of countless souls crying out, entwined with fragments of his own life. Memories they all shared. And then, without warning, the creature convulsed, letting out a piercing roar that resonated within Adnan's bones. The surge of energy erupted violently, pushing him back as the chamber's walls shimmered and shifted. An opening appeared, an escape like a gaping maw. It beckoned, filled with truth yet shrouded in uncertainty. What lies ahead? Adnan's heart raced, pulse quickening as adrenaline surged through him. Would he step into the unknown, with the promise of revelation just out of reach? Would the answers he sought bring salvation or doom? Adnan stood at the threshold, the creature's final roar still echoing around him, the warriors watching, waiting, their hopes etched in the air. This was it, his moment hung suspended, a breath away from destiny. What awaited him in that shadowed doorway? And perhaps, most hauntingly, what sacrifice would it demand? Adnan stood at the edge of the unknown, heart pounding against his chest, breaths coming in ragged gasps. What awaited him beyond that threshold? Was it hope or despair? Suddenly, the chamber trembled, urging him forward. He had felt the creature's desperation, and now he had to face the echoes of his past and those who had been lost. Adnan. Fatima's voice echoed from the surface, sharp and clear. It grounded him. He envisioned her last look, fear mixed with unwavering support. For her, for all of them. He vowed silently, stepping into the light. As he crossed the threshold, the world around him shifted completely. The chamber exploded with color, sounds echoing, memories whirling like leaves in a storm. Adnan was thrust into a realm of time past, present, and future intertwining like woven strands of a tapestry. Visions of his childhood flooded back, days spent fishing, the laughter of family, the warmth of the sun on his face. Then there was the storm, the chaos that had ripped through their lives, tearing apart the very fabric of his existence. Guilt washed over him, but the light surged brighter, surrounding him with voices he had long forgotten. "You are not alone," they whispered, the echoes of his ancestors wrapping around him. "Remember us." He reached out, hand trembling, as the visions grew more intense. The giant creature lingered at the cusp of his new reality, its torment evident. It was a mirror reflecting not just rage but the collective suffering of lost generations. "I can't do this alone," he cried out, and in that moment of vulnerability, power surged through him, emerging from the chaos. The shadow of the beast hovered before him, fluid yet defined, confused, swirling with emotions he could feel. Without hesitation, Adnan took a step forward, urging the past and future together, bridging the gap that had separated them for so long. "This is the truth. We are shaped by the pain of our ancestors, but that pain can fuel our strength." His voice rang out, unwavering. In an explosion of brilliance, the shimmering essence of the creature intertwined with him. Memories cascaded over Adnan. The warriors united behind him, chanting stronger as his heartbeat synchronized with the creature's. They were one now, sharing anguish, sharing hope. He felt the dark weight shift, resolve settling in his bones. "We will heal together," he proclaimed, and as if responding to his declaration, the thick veil of darkness peeled away, revealing the true form of the creature, not a monster but one who had suffered, one who had protected the secrets of an ancient world. Adnan could almost see the creature's soul, the pain of loss, the relentless battle for survival. "I understand you," he shouted, voice raw with emotion. "You are not alone anymore." A silence enveloped the chamber, heavy but electric, charged with a sense of reckoning. The creature's eyes softened, and in that moment, both beast and man glimpsed the potential to reclaim what had been lost, whatever that might entail. Then, the light exploded outward, fusing everything, the ancients, the waters, and the dreams of generations behind him. With a deafening roar that echoed through eternity, the creature plunged deep below. In an instant, the chamber dissolved into a cascade of shimmering light, sweeping Adnan back into the warmth of the night, the waves of the Dead Sea lapping gently at the shore. Fatima was there, eyes wide in disbelief alongside a stunned crowd. "You did it!" she gasped, or written across her features. He felt smaller in that moment, disoriented. "I don't know what happened," he admitted, looking back to the shimmering waters. Those strange glowing fish leapt through the surface, wild and free. They spiraled in rhythmic patterns, whirling as if celebrating. "Adnan." Fatima's voice broke through his haze. "What did you see?" Relief washed over him as he recognized the truth radiating from the depths. "It's not just about darkness. There is healing, potential history that shapes our present, but we must face it together." As the crowd erupted into murmurs and cheers, Adnan felt newfound strength surging through him. He recognized faces in the crowd: fishermen with their families, tourists captivated by the wonder of the night. They had weathered the storm, and what lay ahead was brimming with possibility. As dawn's light broke through the dark sky, the once ominous waves danced like starlight, carrying with them the remnants of whispered prophecies turned promises. The Dead Sea, filled once more with life, felt transformed, like an ancient wound beginning to heal. "Together," Adnan said, clutching Fatima's hand, pulling her close as hope blossomed in the air. "We can shape our destiny." They turned to face the horizon, ready to embark on a new journey, side by side, a tale waiting to be written beneath the radiant sun. And as shadows receded into the past, with courage and unity, they stepped forward into a dawn that gleamed with uncharted promise. "Now that you've reached the end of this riveting adventure, I need you to take action. Subscribe immediately to the channel so you don't miss the next exclusive stories. Smash that like button now to feed the algorithm and show you want more intense tales. Flood the comments section with your reactions and theories about how you think this story will continue, and don't wait even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this conclusion. Your support makes a big difference. Let us keep the journey alive.